JCPS Digital Learning Live. I am Kathleen Receiver, Digital Innovation Leader in JCPS for the Elementary Zone 2 schools. I am joined today by our digital backpack team. And also, I'm joined today by John Paul Junk from Fern Creek Elementary, Venita Burnett from Blake Elementary, Erin Bloomer from Alex Kennedy, and also Catherine from Dunn Elementary. Welcome, everyone, to our show. We will have Bev today running the control room and taking questions from the YouTube live chat. So make sure if you're watching, you drop in there and introduce yourself, as well as let us know what school or district office you are from. If you don't have the chat capability, make sure you log into YouTube, and while you're there, click the subscribe button too. With us. All right. I do believe that we have Blake Elementary first. Venita, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Venita Burnett. I'm at Blake Elementary. I am the STEM lab teacher here. We've had the STEM lab here at Blake Elementary, and we're getting bigger and better every year. The pictures that you see, first off, we started at the beginning of the year using the Osmo apps. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Osmo technology. There's tons of games, educational games that you can play with it. At the top right, you see a kid. It's actually my son, Jason. He's doing coding with Obby on there. So it's a simple coding game, but it teaches them the basics of coding. Down under that picture, students are doing letter sound recognition. They're spelling words and matching it with the pictures. You have some math going on in the middle with the tangrams, as well as the math. One of their favorites is the one that's under our STEM lab link up there. By the way, bit.ly/Blake STEM lab is our class website. That game is called, Osmo Monster, where the kids draw on the board whatever that monster is asking them, then he magically pulls it in the screen, and their pictures become part of the story. So they're telling stories, and so they erase and draw the next picture, and then they push play at the story, and all of their pictures are embedded in the story. They really like that. And then the last one to the far right, I want to say they were using, which one was that? Osmo Masterpiece. It's a tracing app. The picture is displayed on the iPad, because for Osmo, you need to have your own iPad, and it has that red reflector there at the top. And the picture is displayed on the iPad, and it reflects off on the paper, and it just bounces back and forth, and it looks like their hand is inside of the iPad. So they're tracing it, but then it comes on the paper, and it looks like they just drew it themselves, and they absolutely love it. In fact, my STLP students are using it as part of their STLP project that actually got them to state this year. Here we have Spheros. This is something new that we rolled out this year. You can code the Sphero, but basically they were learning how to aim and drive the Sphero. And you can change colors, you can speed it up, make it go fast and slow, try to practice driving it to get through mazes. The kindergartners in that picture, they're just playing a game. We made up a game called Knockout. So as they're learning how to drive and aim the Sphero, and aim just means that you line the Sphero up where you want it to be, so that when you go up, it goes up. When you go left, it goes left, or whatever. So they're sitting in a circle, and they're trying to knock each other off the carpet, or they're running from each other or chasing. We just made up a game just for them to practice. Then the girl is in the hallway practicing driving it through the maze. So we take up the hallway space as well here at Blake. And
Hey, Venita, can I stop you for a second?
Yes.
I love this, and I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to our STLP, Student Technology Leadership Program. They actually have at State next week, a Sphero Heroes section. So if you are watching the show today and you're not aware of that, you really should look into it. It's a great opportunity for students. So you can check that out on the STLP website. Sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
No, it's fine. No, thank you. Interrupt anytime. So then the pictures in the orange, those are the B-bots. So at the top, the picture with the B-bot with the Lincoln Logs, we use whatever we can to make maze paths. And they're practicing how to program again, the very basics of programming and coding, the B-bot to get it to go wherever they want. And it looks really easy and simple, but it's kind of challenging for the children because they have to figure out, I think the B-bot moves 15 centimeters a move, how to get it to go through the whole maze without stopping. And they love doing it. Then they have to figure out what part of the maze do they need to move, or do they want to change the code? They have to make that decision.
And what age are these students that are in that picture?
That picture is either kindergarten or first grade.
Oh, so I'm hearing that Kay can too here, it sounds like.
Kay can too. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Great. Awesome. So also give a shout out to another, actually a kindergarten teacher who isn't on the show today. She's a kindergarten teacher at Young Elementary. And her name is Karen Stone, and she uses B-bots in her classroom with her kindergarten students. And so if you're watching and you're a primary teacher, she uses the B-bots similar to what you're doing. For she has a map printed off with the alphabet. And students use the B-bot to code to get to different letters of the alphabet. So
that's awesome. Now that you mentioned the map, I'm going to have my kids, they're going to, I forget about that. We made a map to match our tangram story that we read. Those right there. Just pull off one of those white things. So I'm going to, Jason, go ahead and get a B-bot map for me. All right. So while they're
Miss Burnett, we have a couple of questions from the chat.
Okay.
Okay. Jennifer Cook at Chenoweth introduced Russ Hockenberry, who's one of our digital innovation leaders.
Yes.
He wanted to give a shout out to her who introduced him to Sphero and loves that. And Russ wants to know if your students are doing Sphero Hero at STLP next week.
Next week, no. Next year, yes. I'm still learning how to do it myself. And as soon as I teach it or my students teach it to me, my son here, not right here, he's back there, he teaches me everything before I teach. So as soon as I learn it myself, we definitely want to enter that competition.
Wonderful. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
Great question. You're welcome. So here is the map. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yes.
Yes. So that our kids, they had to learn, what is A block A1, 3A or whatever it means. And we read a story, a tangram story. And we also have the tangrams with the Osmo. So we just combined all of that together. And so they had to program the B-bot to get to wherever they wanted, or we decided as a class, how many different ways can you get there? Can you get there using 10 commands or 20 commands? So it became more challenging as we went along. Speaking of stories, I do a lot. I have a degree in reading, so I incorporate a lot of literacy in my classroom. So if you see on the slide, it's a book up there called The Great Turkey Race. So during Thanksgiving time, we turned our B-bots into racing turkey. So we read the story, and then we did a challenge where we were racing the turkeys, or the B-bots, and we put They designed a turkey and they put the turkeys on the B-bot. So we incorporate a lot of literacy, whether we're just using Legos or building blocks, things like, the Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf. I had my hair dryer with the wolf on it, trying to blow down there. We do a lot in here. It's not just only technology things. It incorporates a lot of things.
I just think that looks like so much fun.
Thank you.
I want to come next year at Thanksgiving to do that with you.
Oh, well, thank you. You are more than welcome to. Awesome. All right, so this last page is probably my favorite because it's my STLP kids that you see here. We do a lot of green screen things, and we're getting better, and we're trying to order better equipment as we speak. So over to the far, to the far left, you see my students. They were actually recording a video that they submitted for the DPOJ state competition, and we just wanted to try it out just to see how it'll work. They made a commercial for their project to get people to help us make cards for hospitalized kids. So that's our green screen that we made out of a green cloth and PVC pipes from Home Depot. You see the kids holding their scripts behind the iPad. They're recording and they're trying to hold their scripts behind it. And it was so much fun. The picture right next to it, like kind of in the center, says editing videos. They are using our iPads. We also have we have maybe 15 mini iPads in our classroom, and they are using the app Do Ink is what it's called, the green screen app, to edit their video and add whatever they need to add on there. We also have a class set of those headphones with the mics on there. So if they want to do some speaking into whatever apps they want, videos or whatever, and they can use them on our Chromebooks too, which is, if you look at the picture with the red that says Chromebooks, we do a lot of Google collaboration in our class, whether it's with Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets. We try to incorporate a lot of collaboration in our classroom. So you'll often see we have our school, almost every class has a cart full of Chromebooks. We're trying to get to one-on-one. We're pretty close to it. So our STEM lab has been blessed to have our own cart of Chromebooks. So we try to use them as much as we can, not just to do interventions, but to actually do work. Like right now, they're working on a project where they're collaborating and they're creating, we're still working on our African-American inventions. They looked up 2 African-American inventors, and then they take recycled materials and they build those inventions out of those. They put them in a Google slide. They're working on it as a group, so everybody's working on the same slideshow. And then they still have to present it, and they're going to have videos and make it into a video. So it's a big deal. And then finally, the Oculus Go VR glasses. Those are very, very new. So new, in fact, that our kids haven't touched them yet. That is my son at home trying it out for me and telling me what to do and what not to do. I depend on him a lot for my lessons. So I'm very excited to see where we will go with those. And I actually want to pull them in next week because our young ones are working on a Statue of Liberty. And we want to try to take a virtual trip to the Statue of Liberty through those Oculus Go VR glasses.
That's awesome. And I just want to give a shout out to you and your students because you will be at state next year, STLP state next year in Lexington. So congratulations. And thanks so much for coming on and sharing.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Bev, are there any other questions for Venita before she goes and works with her STLP kids? They have lots of work to do, I know.
And we have so many more things too.
From Jill Bird, who says, Venita, she loves these stations. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Great. Okay. So next we have Fern Creek Elementary's STEAM Lab, and we are joined by Mr. Paul Junk, and he is the STEAM Lab teacher out at Fern Creek. Hey, Paul, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I sure can. I can't wait to hear from you and see everything you have to show us today.
Okay, thank you very much. The first slide there, you see pictures planters in the window. I built a shelving system in front of the windows to take advantage of sunlight coming in. And we do a lot of things with planting, plants, gardening. We work next door with the greenhouse. The high school has a greenhouse, Fern Creek High School, and we go over there frequently. And we also rake and take care of the yard around here, planting flowers, raking up stuff. 2 weeks ago, we had chickens. We raised them from, we had an incubator that we borrowed from the high school, and we hatched about 10 baby chicks, and we had them for 2 weeks. So we do a lot of things outdoors when we can. Indoors right now, we have tomato plants growing. We have 2 large grow lights that PTA bought for me at, I got them at Earth Green over on Taylorsville Road. So we get our plants started in here and then transplant them outside. I do a lot of things that I think other STEAM teachers do. We do very little technology though. We're pretty much low budget. We do some guerrilla gardening. We'll take drink carriers and we'll get them wet, soaking wet, put newspaper in with them and get them real soggy. And then we'll wrap seeds up in it. And we'll take those seeds and we'll throw it places around the school, or the kids can take them home and throw it in a field where it's not kept up, hopefully to get some sunflowers growing. And I do buy some things from the scientific catalogs, although I think most of them are overpriced. I'll buy one and then take it apart and make several more. Like we did a catapult for a couple weeks where I bought one, cut out a bunch more for the kids, and then they had to assemble it. And we would measure how far a ping pong ball can be shot. We'd measure the trajectory. We'd put an extra rubber band in it to see how much more power we'd get out of it. We're getting ready in the next week to build a 9-foot geodesic dome from PVC pipe. Basically, these things are made for chicken coops, but we're just going to build it in the school, in the cafeteria, and it's put together with zip ties. So that's going to be a project for 5th grade.
Awesome. So there's definitely, I'm hearing all kinds of science and math and engineering. So this is great. Great ideas.
Right. Thank you. And each lesson, before we get started, I have the kids sit down and we'll talk about what we're going to do. We'll talk about what they know about it. And before we get started on it, I'll bring in some tools from home. I've brought in just about everything from my garage. I'm starting to run out of tools. I brought in jigsaws, hacksaws, scroll saws, sanders, grinders, and I'll do a little short demonstration with it to show them what it does, what it's for. And it's amazing how many kids don't know the difference between a screwdriver and a bolt. I mean, it's just shocking. So I want them to know that every profession uses tools and they need to know what some of the basic tools are. My big contribution, I think, is my room. I wanted to make my room very attractive to the kids because I know beauty attracts. And the giraffe that you see in the picture there, he's about, well, he was 8 foot. I had to cut his neck down some. He's over my door out in the hall, and he's made from cloth mache. I did it during spring break. And I tell the kids I want them to stick their neck out. I want them to take a chance because I think the school systems are set up so much for kids to get the right answer or to get an A, and they don't want to fail. And it's okay in here to fail. It's okay in here to copy other kids. Kids will say, they're copying my design. It's like, that's great. Make it better. Copy it and make it better. So
I love that. I love that. That is great. Now, did you make this giraffe this past spring break?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I haven't been there since spring break and I don't remember seeing him. So I love it. Great.
Yes. And let's see, next picture, the STEAM lab. When I got this room, I took out all the dry erase boards, everything in here had to go. And I didn't want anything that looked like a regular classroom. The bulletin boards, the dry erase boards, I put new frames around them. I didn't want any right angles like you have in all the bulletin boards. So you can't really see it in this picture, but there's a plasma plate in the middle that sparks and there's ants crawling around it. And we do a thing on ants. We do a lesson on worms. We do a lot of nature things.
Great.
Oh, next slide. You got another slide there?
Yes, sure do.
Okay. The slide there with the terrible lighting, those are the grow lights. And they're right now there's tomato plants in there. And I believe we have birdhouse gourds growing on the side there. So we're hoping to harvest some salad, some small tomatoes with that. The picture in the middle is I talked about that earlier. It's about the guerrilla gardening where we take seeds and we wrap them up into wet. This picture is a 2-liter bottle with fins on it. And we do a lesson on air pressure, the pressure in basketballs, the pressure in automobile tires, the pressure in a bottle rocket that has too much air in it. How far can it go? And we track that and see how far, how high we can get it to go. And the kids love that outside. We'll put water in it and they'll get to pump it full of air. And of course, when it gets too much air, it'll shoot 60, 70 foot in the air. And it's a nice thing we can do for each class that doesn't cost anything. Most of the things I do are very inexpensive. On the ceiling, I have a large scale train that is almost done. I mean, it's up and running, but it needs a guardrail around it. And we're going to do some time motion studies with that. For example, if the train makes one complete circle in 37 seconds, how many times will it go around in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes? So instead of just having that as a word problem, they can actually see the train and see it move around. So I'm looking forward to doing that at the end of the year. Dr. Coleman came here to roll out the backpack program. That's her standing there. And we had all the teachers in here and we had our meeting with her in this room last year. Last year was our first year for STEAM Lab. The next picture is a T-Rex I made several years ago. Couldn't get the whole thing in here. It was just too long and took up too much space. So the tail is in my garage, but I bolted this to the wall. And of course, if you deal with kids sooner or later, you've got to have a lesson on dinosaurs. So that's what that is. And you can see a lot of things in my room I've slimed, cut out pieces of wood in the shape of slime and painted them. The tables have slime on it, some of the walls, and the cabinets do. So I don't really have a desk. I have a small booth that I work out of, and the cabinets supplies are a big problem as far as storage. So I use those as storage, and also my tables, all my tabletops lift up, and you can put stuff in there, which are loaded.
Yes, you can see on the purple table where Dr. Coleman is standing. The slime right there, they lift up. I was in Mr. Junk's class a couple times, and I want to be there all day long and tinker and play and play while learning with his students. So awesome. This is awesome. So thank you so much, Mr. Junk, for talking to us about your STEAM lab. And next we have Dunn Elementary.
Hi, I'm Katie Tegge. But if you can see in the picture, it's that's what my classroom looks like. It's very bright and colorful. I don't have a window in my room, so I need it to be bright, for myself. And I feel like my students do better with that as well. The bulletin board that's in the hallway that you guys see for March for Women's Month, it's just celebrating women in STEAM because, the great thing about it was when I put this up, little girls would stop in front of my bulletin board and they would stop to look at it and see the different parts. So I just felt like that when you have a bulletin board, just to be able to stop and, it just really drew in their attention to see that, this is for girls as well. It's the science and the technology and the engineering, the art and the math. It's for girls just as well as it is for boys in all aspects. And then the wall with the words on it. I mean, my principal did that. This is the second year for our STEAM lab. So my principal did that last year. And it's actually kind of a topic of discussion when the kids come in the first couple of days, the first time they come in the beginning of the year. So it's a good way to kind of talk about how those words kind of all relate to being an engineer. You can go and move to the next one. And this one, Venita, you were talking about your son, the little blonde boy in the middle. That's my son too. I do the same thing. I test everything out on both my children. I have a second grader and a third grader, but we tie technology so much in with everything that we do. I'm very fortunate that I do have a class set of Chromebooks and a class set of iPads. So the one picture up in the top in the library area, we're working on virtual reality. And I've had an opportunity to use it several times with different grades this year. And it is just, the kids absolutely love it. It's such a nice way to be able to take a concept and to dig deeper and give them that background. It's like, you're taking a field trip without having to leave or pay for anything, which is, it's amazing. And one that we did, I did with my third grade, we did an energy crisis unit. So we talked about fossil fuels, and we took the virtual reality field trip and went to the bottom of the ocean and saw where everything started, and then went to California and saw the windmills and saw how, how the boards and everything, it works, the solar panels. And then what they did was they took all of that and then they constructed their own solar panels. And we did some research too as well on the computer. So it was just a really cool way to be able to tie it all together. And I'm happy to say everyone's solar panel worked. So it was a success because I was a little nervous.
That's awesome.
That works great. And then not just with the technology piece, I also do a lot with just building. So we are doing, I don't know if you guys have seen on Twitter, we're doing a school-wide poverty PBL. And so my first grade class, my three that I have, first off, they're amazing. So we came up with the concept of how to feed stray dogs. And so they have created machines that you put a recyclable can or bottle in, and then it releases food in order to feed the stray dogs that are out on the street. And then in order to pay for the dog food, you take the recyclable materials from the machines, and that's how you pay for the food. So then that way it's not coming out of pocket from one person and like that. So we watched a little video on that, and then they all created their own. And just the creativity for 6 and 7 year olds, just to come up with and understand, how to get the different parts of the inside of it to work. It really was awesome to watch and see them do. Another thing that we're doing is Lemonade Day, and I know Erin Bloomer is doing that as well. I am very fortunate that I have an amazing librarian at my school. You guys might know her, Erin Wallace. Just going to throw her out there. she and I collaborate a lot together, and it is the stuff we're doing. This is the first time I've ever done anything with the Lemonade Day. And it is so cool to watch these fifth graders plan all this out, and just the ideas they're coming up with. Like, they're creating a business plan, you know, and then we've decided that we're going to do it on our field day. And we've turned it into a competition for each class to see who raises the most money. So it's really, I love, like I was saying with Erin Bloomer, being able to see what she was doing with it too, you know, to get ideas and go back and forth with my colleague, Erin Wallace. And then, you know, I do a lot of collaboration as well. And that's like with this whole part of it too, like with the science aspect of it and the social studies, we've tied stuff into here. I try to do, like I said before, I am fortunate that I have the Chromebooks and all of the parts of technology, but I do try to pull in other parts, you know, with the building and the makerspace, and then just tying in. We did a whole, my kindergartners, we did a whole fairy tale unit where they had to help the main character figure out how to solve their problem. So, and that was, you know, again, the whole K-Can too. I mean, it was so cool to see, you know, how you take a 5-year-old and they're like, well, this is what Rapunzel needs to do in order to get off the top of that before the witch gets there.
Yes, I love that. And you're taking problem solving and using technology, but also using reading strategies and literacy as well. And that's awesome. That's great.
And we've also been doing Rubik's Cube. Oh my gosh, they love it. I've done it with 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I'm with 3rd graders right now. And my son, for example, is one that's in my class. And he figured out the 3x3 yesterday. So then he goes home last night and he's like sitting there with me and he's like, Mom, let's figure out all these different algorithms. So today he came in and he was sharing them with his friends in his class. And we had so many solve the 2x2 cubes as well as a 3x3. It's like, just once they start to see it, that perseverance and that problem solving. I mean, it's amazing how a Rubik's Cube can just carry all that through. You can go to the next slide. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
And I'm finished. That's all I have. But thank you so much. Unless I have any questions.
No, thank you. This is great.
A couple of comments that have been made is love the maker attitude and mindset, love VR, and Russ says, Katie, that sounds like an STLP project.
I love it. Tell them we'll get on that.
That's right. Okay.
And I just wanted to chime in. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather, and I've gotten to visit each one of these STEAM labs. And all I can ever think when I'm leaving is how lucky these students are to have teachers like each of you. So I just want to say, I mean, I know this isn't, you know, this is tough work. I mean, project-based learning and having kids involved. I know when I was in Mr. Junk's class, they were making slime and he's pouring slime and he just read a book about, you know, maybe chemistry or something. But I know this is tough work. And I just want to say how lucky our district is to have teachers like you who give these types of learning experiences to our kiddos. So thank you for all that you do from the bottom of our hearts. And as a parent, I wish my kids had more experiences like this too. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Okay. So next we have up Alex Kennedy with Erin Bloomer.
Okay. So I will start with an apology. It is mismatch day here at Alex Kennedy. So if you saw me race marker, this is not what I usually look like on Fridays, but I have dry erase tables as part of my STEAM lab. So I was just taking notes as everybody was talking, so I didn't forget just now. So here we go. This slide kind of just is how my brain works, my life works in general. It's always multiple tabs open. So I've just gone through and kind of in the middle, put everything that I think stands for STEAM in this school, basically. Before the Backpack of Skills came out, we were already doing all of those things in this lab. We were already innovating. We were already collaborating in here. We were already problem solving and persevering. And it's just nice that it's been reinforced now with the Backpack of Skills, because we are doing that in the STEAM labs across this district. As far as the pictures that are up here in the top left corner, those are some first graders. That's just like a simple magnetic marble maze that they're making, actually. Actually, it's a magnet and a washer up top. So they had to create a maze where they could move the washer through the maze without actually touching it. So they had to work collaboratively on that. Right below that picture on the bottom left corner, I run Makerspace. I know John mentioned that bringing in the tools. And that's what we're doing too here. 3 weeks out of the fall and 3 weeks out of the spring, I set up a full-on Makerspace in here. So my room is pretty small. And so we just kind of go all in. I do heavy content-based lessons the rest of the year, but those 3 weeks before Christmas break and those 3 weeks before testing, it's kind of a free-for-all in here. So we have all of the tools. We have a Lowe's grant this year, so we have even more different kinds of items coming in from that. And it's I've taught you how to use all of this. Now see what you can do with everything that we've learned. That top right corner is kind of when I reached out to the science department and I said, hey, these are 5th graders and I want to go off the grid with the kit there. So I know that typically 5th graders are focused on social studies. Here's what we're going to do instead. And I have an AP who's an aquarium geek. So he's going to help me with this. And so what we did is we made basically soda bottle ecosystems in there. So we upcycled all of the critters from across the school, across from the kits. And instead of having to put them other places, they went into these ecosystems here. So we grabbed fish from one grade and crayfish from another grade. And I think there's a couple different kinds of fish in there also. We grabbed plants from another grade. And so they ended up taking all of these things that the other grades were done with in science and upcycling them into soda bottle ecosystems that were self-sustaining that we could watch in the window over there. And then on the bottom right, that's another magnet lesson shown in 3rd grade where they're creating maglev tracks. There's an EIE unit that's based on that. I teach EIE sometimes, but then I kind of go away from it also. I use it as a jumping point for me. So we created that with Hot Wheels, and they had to create tracks where the car would move using the power of magnets and not the power of themselves. Corner, that's a pinball game design unit that I do. And I have kits for it, but you could easily go to any like Lowe's or Home Depot and grab pegboard. And there's a lot of math involved in that and a lot of game theory involved in pinball game design. And basically, how do you create a game in which it's not too easy because then everybody gets bored of it, and not too hard because then everybody gets frustrated by it. And then where do you place your targets and how do you award the points for it? So my 5th graders created those, and they spent multiple weeks on that along with the angles and everything else that's involved with it. And then we invited classes from across the school to come play the pinball games. So that's what you see there is the culminating event from that. Below that in the bottom left corner, those are the Rubik's Cubes that Katie was talking about. You can do thecube.com. It's awesome. They will send you cubes for 6 weeks. We just got another set of 2x2s, 3x3s, and 4x4s for our makerspace to finish out. Tons of math involved in it. We've done art with it as well. And then also if you send them back all solved, you have a chance to win the cubes. So that's that tower there is they are math solving the cubes so we can try to win a set of cubes to keep here at school. Top middle picture is a art, math, science lesson for 1st grade where it was a number talk to start the lesson, talking about symmetry. And then the students had to design butterfly wings, and then we used iPads. They took pictures of each other, and they became the butterflies on their wings there. Below that is, I know Venita mentioned the Thanksgiving book. We did Thanksgiving floats with the Ozobots on there. And so then they had to design the path that their float would take using the markers. And then we had one grade, I think it was, they took the balloons and they decided what they were thankful for. So across the balloons, it's taped like, I'm thankful for my family, I'm thankful for my health. And then they took the 2nd and 3rd graders, then took those balloons, trained the floats that they then moved along the mazes. And so we had them all going out in the hallway. Top right is kindergarten. A little bit excited because they worked together to make a boat that would float up there. So again, I get that collaboration. They had tried multiple times and it didn't work. So they kept persevering and going back and trying again. And then the bottom right, that's engineering snowman huts. They made snowmen out of ice cubes. We talked about salt properties and potholes and everything else around Louisville. And then they made the snowmen using those same ideas. They measured them because they had to conform to certain specs, and then they made sure they fit in the huts and that they were insulated inside their huts so the snowmen didn't melt.
Erin, we have a question from Russ that is asking about the pinball. Were you inspired by Kane's Arcade?
Oh, I actually had not heard of Kane's Arcade before I got those. I know about Kane's Arcade, and I've seen awesome things done with that. I know that's a little more cardboard based, it's kind of the same idea, but that would be pretty cool to have a whole arcade going on based on Kane's Arcade and that pinball game fusing together.
Good. Okay. And then also Jill Bird is saying it's exciting to see that so many teachers in JCPS are doing the STEAM labs. We need to find a way to share more ideas. Our kids are so lucky to see all of the innovative teachers. So thanks.
And I just wanted to throw up here some tips for implementing a STEAM lab, like top 5 tips, because I'll have a lot of people come here and think that after 45 minutes, they'll walk out of here and be ready to roll for the entire year. And it's like not one size fits all. And that's the cool part about listening to everybody else, is that your supplies are different, your kids are different, space is different, your schedule is different. And so I think these 5 tips kind of hit the big points of how you get your STEAM lab rolling. Number 1, creating a year-long plan where I start by filling in big units with science and math content, and then I go from there. So I make sure that we hit at least 1 major science content every cycle and 1 major math content every cycle, create units, plug those in, and then I start going backwards from there. So actually, I do have my grid created in August. It's not set in stone. I do tweak it as the year goes on, but I start with that, and then I infuse the engineering, technology, and art from there. Number 2, I know that John said he buys 1 item and then not a lot of 1 item. I'm totally a fan of that because there's always something new and different coming out. I'm a hustler and a hoarder, so my room is a disaster right now because I need to organize it. But I mean, you just put yourself out there and ask for supplies and then hang on to it because you never know when you're going to use it. Like I'm sure Katie in her PBL right now for the poverty one is probably like bringing all sorts of supplies in. And it's easier to just have them on hand in your room instead of trying to find them all right when you need them for that project. Venita, for number 3, I know you said reading was your jam over there. And so just because that I'm not stream, I'm definitely using books too. I started off the year with After the Fall, which is an amazing book about Humpty Dumpty. If you haven't read it, highly suggest it, about perseverance. And then I have a whole bookshelf full of picture books that I tie into my K-2 lessons primarily. Number 4, grouping is key. I have found that with 4, somebody's not working, and with 2, you need many more supplies. So 3 is kind of my magical number. Some of my tables in here, they look like pork chops, but they are kind of concave triangles almost. So K's can reach the middle. There's enough space for 5th graders. 3 is my magical number in here. And number 5, that's what I mentioned in the beginning, those so-called soft skills that everybody said, oh, you know, that's amazing, you can need those. No, we've known that for years. It's just nice that it's now reinforced by the district with the backpack. And so if you can't incorporate every single content area, you know, the S, T, E, A, and M every single time, at least figure out a way to incorporate all of those so-called soft skills in every lesson. That's all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin, for sharing, and everyone for sharing. Actually, this has been very helpful, and I love your 5 tips here. And I know that other teachers and administrators that are thinking about having STEAM labs in their schools will benefit as well.
That's what I was.
Are there any?
Kathleen, I can't wait to share this episode with our principals on their principal priority page. As soon as Elaine gets the show up and running and edited, I'm going to immediately put this link on there. I was with a principal yesterday that's looking at opening a STEAM lab for the next school year. And I said, oh, wait, do you see this show? We're bringing 4 awesome STEAM lab exemplar teachers together. And you guys are really going to serve as kind of the North Star for principals who are hoping to implement something similar in their schools. So I'm excited to share this video and make, force multiply the good ideas across the district. I just texted Dr. Coleman and I said, oh my goodness, wait till you see this show. So I gave you guys a shout out. And I know that she and Dr. Smith are very excited about your work as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on JCPS Digital Learning's channel. And you'll want to make sure that you tune in next week for our next show on April 16th. This one's going to be Cameron Middle School, You, Me, in our digital backpack. So you will want to make sure that you watch that. And thanks again, everyone. And I hope you guys have a great day.